Today, I am suiting up to go behind the scenes at a museum which houses rare clothing and accessories with over 15,000 objects that date back over 400 years. I am at FIDM here in Los Angeles, and they are hosting a show called Fashion Statements, where creators in the LA area have been asked to select pieces from their archive that inspire and correlate with their current processes and points of view, and I am thankful to be a part of this show. Before I arrived, the curators, both of which were named Christine, asked me about pieces that inspired me, and I shared how costume-based eras like the Gilded Age and the Rococo era were big inspirations for me, and they pulled a series of garments to select from. The first piece was a beautifully preserved capelet from the Gilded Age that had a giant butterfly hand embroidered onto the back, which I thought was so thoughtful and appropriate because I have such a love of entomology. The second piece was a stunning gown from the Rococo era. The detail, the weaving, and the silhouette itself were simply mesmerizing, and when I saw the photos of the dress on a forum, it was definitely a contender for me. Another option was one of the original Vivienne Westwood corsets from the 2000s, which was so on par with my aesthetic and was one of the early garments that sparked an interest in fashion for me. And then they showed me a gown that stopped me in my tracks. It was a black lace gown from the Gilded Age, but this wasn't a morning gown. There was an ecru and fuchsia velvet ribbon that was woven from the inner workings of the dress, and it cascaded from the waist to the floor with these comically large amethyst-colored gemstones adorning the nipple areas of the bodice. This is by far one of the most unique gowns, and I have to think that the original owner had a sense of humor and whimsy to her. And that's when we moved on to the last gown. An infamous gown, if you will. The Bo Peep-inspired costume is also from the Gilded Age and was worn by a Vanderbilt to the most elite party of the time. That party went down in history as a huge signifier of the end of the Gilded Age, a party so grand that guests were wearing literal taxidermy on their heads as decor and precious gemstones embedded into their garments for the evening, while the working class and the rest of New York were struggling just to make ends meet. And that's when I realized that it feels a little bit like we're living in a Gilded Age of our own. The parallels were a little bit uncanny to me, and that's when I decided that this was going to be my theme for selecting the garments. The exhibit itself had so many artists that I respect and look up to, and it was so interesting to see which garments spoke to them. In the end, I selected the black, not morning gown, and the Vanderbilt party dress, both of which I couldn't stop thinking about and played into my modern Gilded Age theory. Anyone can make a research appointment to get inspiration and view objects from history, and I have linked their info in the description of this video.